Okay, ladies, now let's get information. I say, okay, ladies, now let's get information. You know you that bitch when you cause all this conversation. Always stay gracious, best revenge is your paper.
It's your girl, Chick Writer Chick, Miss Courtney Lyric in the building, and I have two guests with me today, and we are going to discuss stressful work environments or stress at the workplace. If you guys can introduce yourselves, starting with AJ.
Hey guys, my name is AJ. I'm a graphic designer from Louisiana, and I'm finishing college right now, majoring in humanities.
Nice. My name is Chelsea. I am an illustrator and also an esthetician. I live in Dallas right now, and I do a lot of freelancing.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you all for joining me today. But let's get started. So, my first question is, what are the top three things that make a job stressful for you? And either one of you can go 1st.
Three things:
Mm-hmm.
hours, um, competition. Not like, not competition like, because competition is healthy.
Yeah.
The opposite of healthy competition, whatever that is. I really only got two. Them the only two things that really just bother me.
Okay. AJ, what you got?
I would say not just hours, but the scheduling of those hours for people who need certain days off.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Horrible management that does not know how to talk to people nor know how to organize.
Yeah, management.
I want all the smoke. None of my all my bosses know they on my social media. I ain't scared of nobody.
Oh goodness.
Yeah,
I'll tell
management can make people don't leave companies, they leave managers. That
that
Yeah.
part.
is something I heard years ago, and I 100% believe in that.
Oh, and the third part, clicks.
Oh, oh.
Oh, yeah.
Clicks. Okay, so my three, I put undefined work. And that's for me is like, okay, y'all told us this was our job, but all of a sudden we're doing XYZ. And I thought we only did ABC, so now since we're here and that needs to be done, it's just on us. And have you
Mhm.
noticed that what companies would do is they'll like ask you in those entry level tests, like, do you like to go above and beyond at work? How do you feel about
Oh,
teamwork?
yeah.
They'll ask you vague stuff like
I've
that
literally never got hired for a job where I had to take one of those tests.
when the assessments. I hate them. I hate them because what they're really trying to do is just see if we put extra work on you that is not defined or technically your job. Are you going to be okay
Hmm.
with it? That's what I take from it. But
Yeah, yeah.
I don't like that. Let me know exactly what my job is so I can get to it and do it and go home. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Favoritism, that can be clicks. But I don't know if y'all have ever dealt with favoritism on the job. Like you said, with management, they'll have their picks and chooses, people that don't necessarily do the job the best. They just like
Hmm.
it. So, and no respect for time. I think that's pretty much saying the same thing you guys were saying.
Yeah, I think all three of us kind of just said work-life balance, basically.
Right. Understand that yes, employees are employees, but they're also people. I actually used to have a job, and we'll talk about it later. It was already 14-hour shifts, and they would sometimes take our lunch away because they were busy. That's not my problem that you're understaffed. And they would bring us like Southern Classic and Papa John's to our desk. And it's like this
Labor
could
laws.
be everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just no respect for the fact that, or mandatory overtime. Like it's not an employee's fault that a place of employment is understaffed. That's not my problem. You know, so don't make it our problem. I think that's
Y-
fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But oh, I got a question. And if this is your current job, I would, answer
I
it
ain't
at your
scared.
own risk. What is what is the worst job you have ever had?
You know what? My last job, and I'll say names. I worked for Waxing the City in Las Colinas, Irving, and it was literally the worst experience I have had in my entire life. I am 29 years old. I've been working since I was 16. Worst experience.
Was it a cleaning service or what exactly did they do?
No, actually, you know what? The best part of that job were my clients. I had clean clients. They were sweet. They were kind. I have nothing bad to say about any of my clients. I might have had like one or two. Like I had this one drunk lady. Whatever. Kelly was a miss. But like outside of that, like I had amazing clients and I had an amazing connection with my clients, and I loved the aspect of my job. I'm a waxer. It's very important for you to develop a connection with your client because a lot of your clients are in a vulnerable state, especially with getting Brazilians and other.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood.
Oh yeah.
So
sorry. Yeah.
Like
yeah, hair removal. Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. My bad.
So most of them are like very like, oh, that's what you meant by waxing. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No,
that is
hair.
personal, girl. That is personal.
Yeah, well, I said I was an esthetician.
Oh,
But yeah, so it's very important for me to have like a really good rapport with my clients. So that part of my job was amazing. Like I love my clients. They love me. When I was forced out, I was getting bombarded with text messages because they didn't even tell my clients that I was no longer with the company. So they're showing up to go lay on somebody's table, coochie out, and they don't know this person. And they didn't know that they would be with a stranger.
Wow.
That first of all, that's just bad business on them. That has nothing to do with why they let me go or anything on that. That shows how bad you are with business. So even if y'all did want to talk junk to my clients about me, all of them had a nasty taste in their mouth because of how you handled the situation. You could have called them. That's actually what we used to do, was call them and let them know that, hey, your serologist is no longer with us. We would like to rebook you with another person. But the reason why it was the worst experience was everything that y'all said. Clicks, poor management. Like I said, competition. It was every man for themselves. Mm-hmm. And also just the immaturity. I had, did y'all watch Amanda Seales' interview with Shannon Sharp?
I did.
Okay, so you remember when she was talking about Issa Rae, AJ For You, she had this moment where she talked about how she had a negative experience with Issa Rae's assistant, and Issa Rae was very hands-off.
Yeah.
So there was an employee there, a coworker, who had an issue with me for 2 years, okay? Every time I found out she had an issue with me, it was through my manager, and she would use... The first year, it was her using vague, it's like, some people think this, some people think that. So I'm walking around knowing that people dislike me, but I don't know. I'm like, what is it that I did, though? Like, how they would call me condescending and say I talk to people a certain way. I'm like, well, how is it that I talk to people? Let me know. And give me an example. Well, if I give you an example, then you'll know who it is. Okay. So that was the first year. The second year, I'm like, I can't keep doing this. Who is it? So we can like talk like adults. And so she finally told me, but then she was like, but you can't tell her that you know, because then she won't talk to me. So I'm like, so I'm just supposed to come to work every day and kiki with somebody who I know don't like me? So that was causing very bad anxiety, like, for me. So it made me anxious. And when you're anxious, it's really hard for you to regulate your emotions. Yeah. They started... And then because it had gone on so long, they had created a narrative that, like, once people have an opinion of you, that's their opinion. You can't really change that. It doesn't matter how you did it. I remember I was sitting at our front desk, and the girl comes up, like, right behind me to grab something out the drawer. I was like, what are you doing? How she heard it was, and this is what she said in the office, what are you doing? No one talks like that. No one talks like that. But she had created this angry black girl persona about me, and I had to just sit here and listen to her just tell me why she didn't like me. And it was a bunch of just like, it was just perception. Ultimately, it created a toxic work environment for me. It made me anxious. Everybody hated me, and my manager didn't do anything to help me. She did everything to stay out of it, which is not what you're supposed to do as a leader. So she was very non-confrontational. The lead was also non-confrontational. My manager would actually talk junk about the lead to me. And now for me, I'm like, I'm not going to tell somebody that the manager doesn't like them when they're supposed to be working close together. I'm not going to create tension where
Yeah.
that's not my business. My job is not my job, but that would have been my manager's job. If she knew two employees were not getting along, that's your
Yeah.
job to make sure that the business is functioning well. But it couldn't function because she created an environment where I wasn't allowed to resolve the issue, and I had every intention of doing so.
Do you feel like, first of all, do you mind me asking, was this a fellow black person?
Yeah. So this is the thing. She was half black, half white, and she definitely leaned into her white side more. I have no problem with
Oh,
mixed people at all. So I don't want to create that narrative, but she had a hard time with her own black identity.
okay.
And she literally said slavery was a choice to me.
Wait,
That's
wait, wait, wait,
What?
wait.
Wait a minute,
Huh?
rice and coochies. What's going on? Like,
yeah. So I'm not I want it to be very like on record that I don't project on mixed people when I say that she was identifying with her white side, because I know a lot of people, anytime a mixed person do something that is not quote unquote black people like to say, oh no, she's identifying with her white side. That's not what I'm doing. She really did identify more as a white girl, and you can clearly look at her and tell she's not white.
yeah, it's a
So
thing. It's a thing. Yeah.
yeah, so I just didn't want that to be a narrative. But yeah, so but a lot of the people that I worked with were black or Hispanic.
Do you
So
feel like, so you feel like your manager did not protect you?
no.
So she was pulling Issa Rae and kind of staying out of it instead
Hmm.
of risking. I think it sounds like she just didn't want to be disliked. So instead of risking that
Hmm.
and protecting all the girls
Hmm.
under her,
Yeah.
she would rather you guys handle it yourself.
Yeah, and she was also put in that position. I will say this. She wanted to leave at one point so that she could I guess get managerial experience elsewhere, and then because she was a waxer before she became a manager, but because our owner was afraid of her leaving and taking her clients, he just promoted her. So she had
Oh,
no managerial experience when there were two, me and somebody else, who actually had managerial experience. But at the time, we also had another manager there who got fired because she was sleeping with clients. Like, we just had bad
good
managers.
Lord.
Yeah,
Oh Lord.
gossiping. It was just a nasty environment with cliques, jealousy, just immaturity, non-confrontational attitudes. And then I don't know. I'm finding out as a 29-year-old that I definitely have ADHD and I might possibly be autistic. And a lot of things that people find necessary in conversation, I find illogical. Like, I don't like to use massage language. If I need something done, I'm going to be like, hey, can you mop the floor? But apparently that's not nice when everybody's job is to mop. If everybody's job is to mop, then I'm just going to be like, hey, I'm going to take out the trash. Can you mop? But apparently that's mean. That's me being. This is the thing I was dealing with. They would be like, no, that you're being mean.
Mm. And I think, like you said, it sounds like the leadership was definitely lacking in favoritism. Once again, he didn't want her and her clients, so he
Mm-hmm.
promoted her when she clearly was not skilled in
Mm-hmm.
that area. So,
Yeah.
what about you, AJ? What would be your worst job ever? And if it's your current job, mention it at your own risk.
I'll say it once, I'll say it again. They own all my social media. And
I
they
was just
know
thinking that, Chelsea, I
I
hope that
don't
girl ain't
care.
on you.
You know, I'm like my dad. I tell it like it is.
Yeah.
But so the rare thing though, real talk, I've only had three different jobs, no, four different jobs that I've worked at throughout all these years, being 25 years old. I flip flop between Best Buy and Lowe's. Good experience for the most
Okay.
part. Work for Office Depot currently, but my two worst. Can I put two bad experiences in? So first experience, Lowe's when I was in Lafayette, Louisiana. I was working there during my sophomore year of college. During that, however,
You do have a little bit of an echo.
I do
Mhm.
Yeah.
try. Is that better?
Say some more.
Yeah.
Say something. I don't
Okay.
know what it is.
Well, continue. We'll do
Okay,
what we can in post.
but I was called a nigga. Yes, and I was pretty much
Hold
forced to
up,
have to
hold up.
deal with
Home
it in South
Depot?
Louisiana at Lowe's in Lafayette. Sounds about white. I know, but it got
Wait,
to the point.
question. A like with an A or AH or with an ER?
ER.
Now you know.
And
I
so I
had to double
said,
check. I had to double check.
I told this white man, I ain't your nigga, and I sure ain't your nigger. And I walked off and went to the back. My boss asked, what happened? I told him everything that happened. The other bosses came in. They was like, yeah. But he was like, you forget something. AJ gonna stand for himself, even against us, even against district. We've never dealt with an employee like this. He does job, but he will take a stand if we try to BS him. And I like how people respect that mantra. But
Quick question before you start your second story. Have you ever, Courtney? Have you ever been called a nigger at work?
Not at work and not that word directly. There are ways to say things without saying things.
I was not called a nigga, but the girl I think had a less respect for me than the other managers. This is when I worked somewhere else. I was a manager, but she was telling a story. She was a white girl, and she was telling a story. And she said it thinking that I would be cool with it, and I was like, "Go home." I just looked at her. I said, "Go home. I'll take the heat for it. Go home." What? Me? What? Go home.
Well,
shaking my head.
no, but actually, I have to say you actually handled that very maturely, especially for your age, because I know quite a few that would have been boxing up and down that Home Depot. For real, though, like.
Look, don't tell me to act Christ-like, because the Jesus I know flipped the table. That's what I tell people. Don't
Come on,
try
you
me.
hit them with a whiplash.
The Jesus I know flipped the table, so don't tell me to act Christ-like, because
You
pick
see
a
this
Christ.
hand right here, Chelsea? I tell my boss, this my pimp hand.
Not the pimp hand. I think for me, and I've had quite a few more than three jobs, but I'm also 10 years older than you, so worst job ever I would have to say was teleperformance. We actually used to call it the slave ship, just as like a nickname. That was the one I was talking about. Now there were a lot of fun memories. Don't get me wrong. There was good management. There was management whose hands were tied, and there was only so much they could do because it's such a large corporation. But you would think because it is such a large corporation that they wouldn't do things like take our lunch and give us pizza at our desk when we work 12 and 14-hour shifts. And I was
Nah,
pregnant. I worked my entire pregnancy.
Well,
Um,
that's why they do it, because they're so large. It's hard to work your way up the chain of command to get retribution for that type of thing. I know that from working for Sephora.
yeah, so that was, they would do those type of things occasionally. Of course, it was back to back calls. The workload itself wasn't that awful because it was just, depending on which department you worked in. I did customer service, so the workload itself wasn't that bad. It was just like I said, the lack of respect for time. Like I actually went into a little pregnancy episode. I had a good supervisor who did let me go, and I had to be put on bed rest and things like that. And they kind of sort of worked with me, but I didn't get paid for that time off. So it was like, then we all found out through Facebook that our client was removing their business. So pretty much we found out through Facebook that we weren't gonna have a job. And mind you, I'm 8 months pregnant at the time. So it was just it's stuff like that teleperformance will forever be on the shit list for. But I met some great people there, lots of memories. Like I said, there was good, there was bad, and some of the good is unfortunate because their hands were really tied and there wasn't too much they could do. But yeah, hopefully they grew over the past few years. They still over there. They still out there.
You reminded me of something, but I'll wait because I know AJ had another story.
What
Oh
was the
well,
second job?
finishing the one with Lowe's though, the manager, he pretty much just tried to reprimand me, while the other managers they got rid of the report. I'ma just say that. Um, it was never to be seen again because right is right and wrong is wrong. But his inaction.
They got
Uh,
rid of the report as far as like you. Okay, so they protected you.
yeah,
Okay, cool,
but
cool, cool.
the he enacted on a lot of things. He harassed a 17-year-old who went off the clock because he was tall, angry white New Yorker. He was like, you don't want to stay on the job? I was like, Jesus, guy, chill out, take a chill pill, drink some wine, get a life, something. But so it got to the point to where that set the nail in the coffin for him. Employees and customers saw it. It was recorded. Corporate came and fired every manager
Okay, corporate.
because this stuff has been going on for years, but they've been too scared to handle it themselves. And then one of the male managers wanted to sleep with me. Come home with me, AJ. I said, nah, brother, this ain't the type of party. I'll be your friend. That's it.
Oh, what? Come again? Hold up.
He wanted to sleep with me.
You're a
And I
manager?
said, no.
Mm,
Yeah.
Ooh.
Because he was going to tell me how I would have got a promotion if I did so. And I'm like, no, I got integrity. My parents raised me with integrity. I'd be a fool. And I would hate myself if I did something like that. But second experience, my first manager experience when I was in Atlanta, um, I was assistant manager at Kroger in the meat department. People still don't stop joking about that. But there was a white manager, HR manager, the worst HR manager I've ever dealt with. Um, what she told me was that I need to follow her every lead, even if it went against the manual. And even if it went against the manual, it came to the head to where I said, no, I have too much integrity. It was the same thing, integrity. And because of that, she wanted me to work on Sundays. And, I need my Sundays off. I go to church on Sundays. I don't care what nobody says. And she literally changed that. Then I had to get the union involved because she tried to dock my pay. Then it came to a head. Oh, I see where the echo is at. It's coming. It's showing on Chelsea's mic at the same time. Yeah, there we. Oh, that's weird. Okay, but anyway, it's a It came to the head where the union had to get involved, and when the
Oh.
union got involved, they sent her to another store. It was real Italians, mind you. You know what they say about unions, but I'm good with Italians. That's all I'm gonna say. But she literally embarrassed me in front of customers, and then I said, "Hey, I need help with this. You chewing me out, and I need help with this because I'm trying to close up the shop, and I can't touch them because I'm allergic to shellfish." And so she goes, "I'll bring it back." So 5 minutes later, I keep doing my job, finding another task to do while I wait for that. 10 minutes pass by. She does nothing. And because she does nothing, it comes to the head to where I see her. I take my lab coat off from the meat department, hang it up in the back. I go all the way up to the front of the store. And she says, "What are you doing up here? You should be in the back." I said, "Oh, really? Let me tell you about yourself. Because I've been at this job for 2 weeks. That's the shortest I've ever left a job. I've been at this job for 2 weeks. And I have been harassed. I've been demeaned. I have been discriminated against, all by your pasty, fat, white behind. Yo, ugly dyke looking like Steve. Oh, I went off on her in front of customers. And then she says, go home. I said, oh yeah, I'm gonna go home, but I'll be back.
oh
I will
Lord.
be back. And so then when I said that, she tried to get security enforcement out. I said, Negro, did you not just hear that I'm going home so you can stop being her lackey and let me go home like I'm supposed to? And so lo and behold, it comes to the head. I go back to work tomorrow like nothing ever happened. Nobody ever bothered me. But then the general manager was on vacation. Black guy. They play good cop and bad cop. I'll name him. His last name is Roach, and he's just like a roach.
Who?
But
Uncle
oh yeah,
Ruckus.
oh yeah. I told you I want all the smoke. I ain't scared of
Hmm.
nobody because they know I'll come for them if they come back for me. But he goes and says, "Hey, there was some stuff you didn't tell me about." Because I told him what happened, and so I said, "Oh really?" But here's the thing. He was recording what I was saying and then get it to her. So then they go try to put me in the corner. I said, "Oh no, here's what I said," and that said that I did say that you did get the recording of Buster. And then he's like, "Oh, this is just a personal issue. If you really feel that way, then just leave." I'm like, "You're telling me to leave, but I come back to find out y'all terminated me, and I'm still working on the clock when I'm supposedly terminated because I self-terminated by walking out, even though she told me to go home." And I told him, pull up the stuff on the cameras with your hypocrite behind. Because y'all lying. And then because of them, I was without a job for a whole month, messing with my mental health and all that stuff. I almost thought about ending it. But God is around. Come on, he got that ram in the bush. And so he blessed me with Office Depot. But I tell people, I will never work for that company again. Kroger, I don't care what they say.
Dang.
I'm never working for Kroger again. They can take that and shove it.
It was popping in the
That's
meat department, bruh.
that's how I feel about Sephora. This is why I say you reminded me of something, Courtney. I worked for Sephora off and on for about 7 years. Um, and I worked at different locations at the Florida Mall, Disney. There's an area in East Orlando called Waterfront Lakes. Great, pretty, more or less great experiences. It's stuff here and there, but in my opinion, a job is a job is a job. It's never going to be perfect. Then I got fed up with living in Florida, so I took a position in Austin. When I took this position, it was with the expectation that I would also be getting a promotion. But the person that the person that was supposed to be training me for the promotion, I had just missed the cutoff for it, so I would have to wait on it. Well, then COVID happened like almost immediately. Okay. So when we came back from COVID, they basically were in a restructuring position and I was in limbo. Didn't know if the position even still existed. Um, and at that time, I have an autoimmune condition called autoimmune hepatitis. I've always been very transparent with my work with about it. I started getting really stressed out with the hours, and Sephora had changed their rules requiring licensed estheticians. And so because I was the only licensed esthetician, they were working me like a Hebrew slave. Like, oh my gosh. And I would request time off, and they're like, well, it's not good for the business for you to be off. Well, because I was working so much, I couldn't cook for myself the way I needed to. I ended up going into cirrhosis of the liver. I had I had to have 3 surgeries on my esophagus. And at that time, I had internal bleeding, and I went to my manager and I said, I need Monday off because I'm having surgery. She and the assistant looked me dead in my eyes and said, it's not good for the business for you to be off. I said, is it good for the business if I die? Because I'm currently bleeding right now. So then she said, well, we're just going to have to follow policy if you don't show up for work on Monday. I said, that's fine. I won't be here on Monday. So just let the other managers know and I'll deal with the consequences when they come. Well, they didn't let the other manager know. So I'm getting phone calls and while I'm like literally in ER prep with managers asking me where I'm at. And I'm like, I'm in the ER and your store manager knows this. So then past that, nothing happened. They didn't do anything because they knew they were wrong. So no one ever brought it up. Then, Austin have you been to Austin, Courtney?
I've been there before, yeah.
Austin is, there we go. And you could be on your way to work one day and see like a pride parade happening on Rainey Street, and then the next day it's a Trump rally on Lake Travis. It's two extremes. It's the extremely liberal and the extremely conservative. So one day I'm at work and I'm letting people in. People are still masked up, and this woman, I'm telling her you have to wear a mask before you enter, and she's like, I'm not talking to you. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can talk to whoever you want to once you put a mask on. I'm not talking to you. And so I'm like, that's fine. I need to speak to a manager. I said, you can speak to whoever you want, but you need to put a mask on so they can hear me over that. At this point, I had already turned my headset on so they could hear the interaction. So the managers are already on their way. And she's just like, I just don't understand why somebody like you is here. Then I noticed that she had on a MAGA shirt and a MAGA hat. So it's pretty clear as to why I worked in, as white as Austin is, I probably worked in the most white area, Barton Creek. So manager relieves me. I go inside. They're like, you just hang out over here and work this section. I said, okay, fine, whatever, cool. They handle that lady. Then same day, older white woman comes in. She shops in with her daughter, I've seen her before, basically. So I'm helping her find a blush. I'm showing her the blush on her hand, and she had like age spots, and you could see her veins. And she like looks at the blush. She's like, it's a pretty color, but not on me. In my next life, I want to have skin like you. And she proceeds to pet me. My skin started to crawl. I felt like I was in the middle of Get Out. So I don't know. So I was like, okay, well, it's my lunch. I'm going to have so-and-so help you. And I go to the back and I'm like hyperventilating because I'm like, no, this lady did not just pet me. No, this lady did not just pet me. Am I in the twilight zone? And another coworker saw it happen. Now she's Mexican. So she was like, oh Lord. So she comes to the back immediately. She's like, Chelsea, are you okay? I saw what happened. I understand. Can I touch you right now? Because you look like you need a hug. I was like, this lady just tried to pet me. So I'm freaking out. I really appreciate her asking for permission to touch me too. In that moment, she really did show like understanding. I was like, okay, here we go. So I gather my wits. I go outside. Now, in comes this black woman. She comes in. We're talking. I'm helping her out. She's telling me how it's been really hard for her to get a color match. Duh, you're black in Austin. Don't nobody know how to match you. So I help her get what she needs. Well, I go to the back to get some water. And when I come back, my manager says on the headset, hey, there's a woman who's asking for your help. So I already know who she's talking about. I go and I assist her again. At the end of the day, my palm-colored manager says, Chelsea, I know you had a really rough day today, but I want to let you know that I go through what you go through too. That lady earlier, I tried to help her and she didn't want my help. And I was like, it's not the same. It's not this. Are you trying to say it's not the same? She's like, what do you mean it's not the same? I said, that woman who refused to speak to me this morning did so because she wanted me to feel less than. The woman who you had that interaction with, she didn't want your help because, one, she'd already told me her whole story when it came to makeup and didn't want to repeat it again. Two, we'd already built a rapport. Y'all, the job description, which y'all tell us first thing in the morning, every morning, is get a name and give a name to build a connection. So she already knew me. And three, yeah, she probably did feel more comfortable with me because I'm black, because the chances that she's gotten an awful color match in Austin is very high. But it was not to make you feel worse. It was to make her feel comfortable, which is two different things. You don't get it. So that whole thing resulted in a lot of paperwork, and my manager asked me to leave things out. And I said, I'm not doing that. They tried to massage the situation and sit down and have me explain what it's like being black in public, apparently. And it was awful. And so they asked me not to talk about that because at this point I had a meeting with the diversity and inclusion person in our district. And they're literally telling me what I can and can't say at this meeting. Yeah. I did not listen.
I do have a question. The paperwork, was it in reference to what happened with the women in the store, or what the conversation between you and the manager about what happened?
Both. It was everything, including the managers. And I was like, I gotta talk about this conversation too. Because clearly y'all don't get it, and the diversity and inclusion resources that they're putting out is ineffective. That's what I told them. I said it's ineffective and it needs to change, and I have suggestions. And so they were like, well, I don't think the company can do what you're suggesting. I said, that's for me and whoever reads this paper to decide.
Mm.
So I sold out on them. And then my health started getting worse. And that's when they told me I needed a new liver. And it was because of the stress. I kept having flare ups. And so I took FMLA. And then eventually I just ended up quitting. And then I moved to Dallas.
No, it's for the best. That experience does sound pretty awful.
Yeah, I completely
Especially,
blocked that out.
sometimes you got to. It's like, what? But
I
yeah.
forgot it happened.
So, a question I have is, what could employers do to make work less stressful?
Have humanity?
That's a great start. Let's start there. Yeah.
No, it starts with the companies, because at a certain point I've witnessed managers fall under the pressure of the expectations that are put onto them. So I
Mhm.
won't place it all on the managers. The managers lose humanity because they're forced to lose humanity.
True. Yeah. I can see that. I think it does start. Like I work for Progressive, and they're very big on obviously
Hmm.
progressing. Although we had to work on Juneteenth, but so when you are working somewhere that the what do they call it, the something environment, the work environment, or the work culture is already very big on things like mental health, things like stress on the job, anxiety on the job. When that culture is already embedded into the actual job, then yes, that makes it easier for people in management or supervisors, things of that nature, to exercise those things because they're already infused supposedly into the company. I don't know. I feel like it's very hard for big business to, even if they like progressive, even if they aim for humanity, I think it's very hard to truly encompass it because at the end of the day, it's about money. Like there is no
Yeah.
big business that exists that the
Yeah.
goal is to make money. So sometimes I guess with the bigger corporations, they have to line up. Okay, yes, we want to protect our employees. Yes, we want to protect this, that, and the third. But also, we got to make money. So how do we
Well,
balance? Yeah.
big corporations run a lot like our country. The people at the top are so out of touch, they don't
Mhm.
realize that what they're asking is too much. I saw
Agree.
um, I saw a store manager, and a couple of assistant managers lose their jobs because they were trying to get credit card. Like companies try to push their store credit card on you,
Mhm.
and they were kind of going about it in a not so genuine way. And the company found out, and they lost their job for it. But they would have lost their job if they weren't meeting the numbers.
Right. Damned if you do,
So
damned if you don't. Yeah.
yeah, so they're pushing their employees, they're pushing themselves. Everybody's stressed because corporate wants these numbers, because everything's about numbers. But the people at the top don't realize how stressful what they're asking for is, and it forces managers to a certain extent. Like the manager that I was dealing with in Austin, they was just idiots. But other managers, it forces them to do things they wouldn't normally do, because, and I say this, decisions made under duress are not choices.
Hmm.
When you're forced to do something that could change your livelihood, that's not a choice.
Amen. No, really. Yeah. Like I had
So,
mentioned at Teleperformance, there were decent men. Like I said, there's good and there's bad. There's some people that
hmm
they get power and it turns them into Julius Caesar or something. They just go left. And then there are decent people who got a little bit of power, but as much as I want to let y'all have y'all lunch breaks, like you said, if I don't get this cue from being backed up, they're going to find someone else who can. So I would love to do more than just bring y'all Southern Classic to your desk, and give y'all two little bathroom breaks and a 14-hour shift. But it's my A word on the line too. So I definitely understand what you are saying. And of course, the people in Utah, that's where the main building is that they don't get it. They don't care that we're only making $12 an hour as it is. So, like, you're asking an awful lot for not very much money to begin with. But like you said, they kind of just see numbers on a board or they see statistics on a board. They don't understand that behind those numbers are people. They just know we have to get the work queue cleared out or our
Yeah.
client is going to take their business up. I get it. I think some people's hands are just tied.
Yeah, and it's the people at top don't see the person that's literally dying to fulfill their request. I had to get a liver transplant, like a whole ass liver,
Yeah.
because I was overworking myself to the point where I couldn't properly take care of myself when I got home. And they're like, "Well, it is what it is."
Pretty much. Yeah.
Especially after COVID, because a lot of companies were working with skeleton crews for a multitude of reasons, whether you were working retail or if you were working phones. People had decided that they didn't want to come back to work.
Mm.
And these companies were like, well, we still got to meet quota. So these skeleton crews, these people were dying.
Damn. Literally. I do have one really good example, but now that I think about it, she's an independent corporation. She owns two daycares in the Shreveport area. And by the time that I kind of found out about her daycare, I was getting ready to move to Texas. But I just
Mm-hmm.
love the way she treats her employees. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she takes these women on spa retreats. She gives them Christmas bonuses. Just because I wanted to bonuses, she has dinners for them. Shows appreciation. I think a lot of these big corporations, if they could get a true understanding of appreciation, pardon me, pardon me, they all these issues they're having with meeting quotas would probably go away because people have to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if this environment were more conclusive to my mental health not being shot,
Yeah.
I would be more than happy to work for you. Like,
Well,
if
the term happy wife, happy life also applies to your employees. If your employees are happy, productivity goes up. And a pizza party is not going to make me happy enough
no,
to work harder. I can get pizza on my own time. You don't pay me enough to buy
I was like,
grocery
exactly.
anyways.
You up
So
my pay.
I'm buying pizza and waiting for my one free pizza.
No. And like I said,
Like,
when they used to give us pizza at our desk, we didn't even get fucking Pizza Hut. We got Papa John's. I think that stuff tastes like cardboard.
yeah.
And if you're mad that people are quitting left and right or that they're
Mm,
leaving people on hold or putting themselves in a state
no.
where they can't perform.
Do think, and that's the other thing, like these corporations are run like our country. We got this whole draft happening, right? This military draft happening. Why are military enlistments low? It's because the benefits of joining the military is no longer enough to incentivize people to join. Back when my parents were and AJ's dad were joining the military, this was the difference between getting a college education and having a decent life. But college education isn't enough for people to risk their lives anymore because a college education doesn't guarantee that you're going to live a good life.
Mm. True.
The benefits, the GI Bill and stuff is not enough to incentivize people to live decently because, the GI Bill can only do so much when the houses are now a decent 4-bedroom house that's not in the hood is $300,000 in Dallas.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. My condo, I think originally cost $140,000 when we bought a couple years ago. It's almost $200,000 for my 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath or one. It is not even a bathtub; it's a shower and a half bath. 200,000 in Little Mexico. I live over by Lovefield with all the Mexicans, and you telling me my condo is almost $200,000?
Dios mío, señora.
I'd be on the phone outside and I hear a plane going across. I'd be like, hold on, it's another plane. That's enough to make my condo cost less. Usually when you have noise pollution like that should mean my condo should be less. No, ma'am.
Well,
No, ma'am. But the incentive to do stuff going back to work is not enough to make the employees happy. Like you were saying with the one with the daycare, doing things to encourage like a retreat. Like some people don't have time or the money to go on their retreat or normally because they have like kids and families and stuff. So if my job is telling me that we're going on a retreat, I'm going. I'm gonna
I'm
come back
going.
refreshed and happy because I want to be invited back next year. I can get pizza anytime. I can't go on a retreat anytime. I can't go on a cruise
Hello.
anytime. I can't like getting a $50 gift card. No, I want a bonus, like a real
Hello.
bonus. I want a raise. A raise is 10 to 20%. Actually, no, a raise is 20%. A raise is 20%. Most people don't see 20%, but a 20% raise is due every year historically,
Mm.
and most people don't get that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times too, just like you were talking about with corporate America, as we all know it nowadays. Well, what it's been from the beginning, if you really want to argue it. A lot of these so-called leaders have not read a good book and applied it. In college, start with why. How to win friends and influence people. Why, like you said, and in those books they talk about how how we need an incentive. Don't just say, "Oh, well, you're getting paid, so shut up." No, that's wage slavery. Like you were saying, we have to adjust it for inflation, and we need they need to understand we are people too, just as you also
Mhm.
said. Because if they don't, like, that's just going to make people leave the country.
Mhm.
Because now, there's a trend called the New American Dream, which is to
Mm-hmm.
leave the country,
Mm-hmm.
especially pending Project 2025
Yep.
and Trump. I have
And
my passport already.
a lot of countries are changing their travel restrictions because it used to be that if you lived in the U.S., the U.S. was one of the only countries in the world where you can go anywhere without a visa. Now countries are requiring U.S. citizens to have a visa to mitigate the influx of not only people moving, but what's it called? Have you heard of birthing tourism?
Yes, because it's in Brazil. If you have a child there, they're a Brazilian citizen.
Hmm.
So
Well,
that's how I know.
it's not even just for citizenship. It's just for better health care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the craziest thing because I've been telling my parents if or when the Cheeto Puff gets back in office, I'm flying to Brazil. I speak
Hmm.
Portuguese. You fala português, huh?
Hmm.
And I read
Yo
the
falo
healthcare.
português un poquito.
Oh, okay, okay.
Hmm.
Muito bem, muito bem.
I speak what I call Espanol, which is Spanish and Portuguese, because I used to work in Florida and we would get both like tourists from like Argentina, Brazil, and the Brazilians. They always come in the store. They be like, "Brinde, you have brinde for Brazil? You have gifty? No, I had no gifty just for being Brazilian. Come again."
No.
Oh Lord.
They used to get off the bus like the anchovies in SpongeBob. And
Wow.
you see all the shirts, the t-shirts. They'll say Argentina, Brazil, Chile. I see them come in by the bus. They'll be like anchovies.
Let them be great.
No, it was
Hey, I
so
thought I was wild.
stressful. It was so stressful. It was so stressful. It was so stressful. And then I would, because the languages are very similar,
They are.
I
Yeah.
would I would get confused. So like I'd be at the register and I'd be like, uh do you have tiene tarjeta? And they're like tarjeta, and I'm like, oh no, you're Brazilian. Carton. Paga con carton. Oh, okay. So like certain words were different, and then other words were the same, and I'm just like, so yeah, I speak Espanol
Oh, muito
Okay.
bem, muito bem. Just muito
hmm
bem.
and Spanonics, a little bit of Spanonics.
Mm.
Cause like,
I
and
think.
it's
Oh, go
crazy you
ahead,
mentioned that
AJ.
though. Cause I'm like, why are they coming over here? Because now,
Hmm.
I looked over there for Brazil. Even
Hmm.
if you don't need to be a Brazilian resident. Anybody can get
Hmm.
something called a CPF card, so you could
Hmm.
own property, get a job, and shop with a CPF card. But apply for it online. You don't even need Brazilian residency. You don't even have to have a visa there. That's a
Oh, you done
Brazilian
told me
company,
I'm
something.
about to say, so is that your next move? You think eventually you're gonna move to
If he
Brazil?
wins, I'm getting my butt out of here. I'm
Well, because
tired.
I was looking at Korea, I was looking at or South Korea, I was looking at Japan, I was looking at
Why not North
Taiwan.
Korea?
I was looking at Taiwan and Thailand. So
Okay.
yeah. But mainly because I want to have children and I don't want to do it here in Texas because I'm already high risk because of my health stuff.
And it's expensive.
Um and it's expensive. So I was like, I'll do the whole birth and tourism thing.
Hmm. It's something to
It's easy
consider.
because
Mhm.
they got free health care, like
Mhm.
public health care, and of
Yeah.
course, in some places it's better than the others. But
Yeah.
I'm like, if we had that here, so much could be solved.
But what companies just don't understand is that we value work life balance
Yes.
and we value money. Those are the two things that we need and what we want. And they also don't think about the long term. They say I want my money now and they don't think about how much money they could have if they just allowed it to circulate more
Mm.
into the economy. If you pay me enough to come back and shop at the very store that I work for, it all comes back to
It
you.
all comes back.
but
You're
but
absolutely
it's
right.
you should not be an employee somewhere and not be able to afford the stuff you're selling.
Hello.
That doesn't make any sense. Now, when I worked for Sephora, they had something that they called gratis, where they would give us a boatload of products so that we could sell it. So we didn't have to buy it; it was given to us, and Sephora paid pretty well too for the time. But but yeah, most companies don't pay you enough to afford the stuff at wholesale. And then a lot of companies are moving away from the discount.
Really?
And what, but 10% anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm working at Progressive, and I remember because I'm just kind of getting into stocks, and we are a publicly traded company. I asked HR, I actually called and asked, I was like, do we get any kind of discounts on nothing on the stocks? There's
Nope.
no credit card through the job. There's nothing.
My
And
brother-in-law worked for Progressive, and he was like, "It's I can't afford it."
if you get the insurance, the actual insurance, you get $50 at the end of the year. And I didn't even get my $50, and I sent the email. And so that's it. That's the incentive. You get $50 on your last check, and I didn't even get it. And I went to Triple A so quick, and
I'm gonna let me go downstairs and ask Dominic, did he get his $50?
you have to. They don't just put it on there. You have to like send an email and do this
Oh
stuff.
my
To get the
gosh.
$50. It's like they give like they're progressive. Okay,
Yeah.
not just progressive, and I'm the main person
Yeah.
here. Let's talk about your current job. But they are kind of like the auntie who swears to God that she's really cool, but at the end of the day, she's just like
Cool.
their aunties. Like, and a lot of these corporations are, they'll put up a little flag for Pride Month, they'll do a little something for Black History Month, but at the end of the day, you're still a big business that cares about dollars,
Ooh.
bottom line.
So my mom, she worked for the mouse company, and they were on a meeting and they were like, this, this is last week, right? They was on a meeting and they asked her why, or they didn't ask her, they asked why we have Wednesday off. And everybody was just like, it's Juneteenth. And they're like, well, what is that? And my mom refused. She was the only Black person on the call, so she refused to answer. But she sent an email to the person who was leading the call to explain it. And she said, this is what you say when somebody asks that question. She asked her why she didn't say nothing, speak up. She said, because it's not my job to educate y'all.
True.
She said, I'm helping you out for next year.
For free, might I add.
Yeah.
Should have compensated her for the information.
Yeah. But yeah,
Well,
companies.
do you all have any, like, I know a lot of it, are there any suggestions that would even help, like, American corporations build better work environments? Or are we too far gone for that to even be a possibility?
I don't think we're too far gone because there are a lot of companies that have recognized the benefit of incentivizing their employees or just creating a happy work environment. There's a lot of companies that have realized it. But just like this all goes back with our country because the way our country's run, because these corporations and our country's leaders, they're all best friends. They're all old people and old, rich, out of touch people. The only companies that are actually invested in their employees' life are these new startups that are run by young people. And eventually they get pressure once they go publicly traded to adhere to what other company standards are doing. So as long as new companies and the go-getters stay private, we'll see those companies actually treating their employees well.
Yeah.
But what the older people need to realize is that there is a financial gain to be had. It's a symbiotic relationship. There is a financial gain to be had when your employees are happy. That is what they need to understand. Once they realize that they will make money off of our happiness and that we all can win, it'll be fine. But right now, no one's paying their debts off. Everybody is allowing themselves, because what's the penalty? You gonna put the whole country in jail for owing debt? You can't do that. So no one's paying their debts off because I was just telling my grandmother this. It's most millennials are in a state of hopelessness. My grandma was like, "Oh, y'all don't want to work hard and stuff, and y'all give up so quick." I said, "Well, here's the thing, Grandma. When you were younger, when you look in the past, you could see how things were worse. You could talk to your grandmother and know where she came from and that she had to run away from a burning town. When you look back, you saw what was worse, so it incentivized you to work harder to get better. Back when you were a kid, when you were young, when my parents were young, it cost $5,000 to buy a house, and the average income was $30,000 a year. Whereas now it costs, the average home is $300,000 and the average income is $70,000 a year. It's more than triple or quadruple what people actually make to get a home. So you're in debt when you buy a home, and that's not how it should be. So for my generation, when we look back, we see that it was better, and when we look forward, it's a why bother. That does not make people want to work hard anymore.
Yeah.
Again, back then, you look behind you, it was worse. You look ahead, you see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah,
Whereas, but with millennials, we were said, if you work hard and you do X, Y, Z, you get your college degree, you're going to make all this money and you're going to have a house and your family and everything's going to be great. And then we got the degrees, not me, because I saw that was BS. But sorry. But, we worked hard and we looked forward, and we are now like, now what? Because even though I don't have a degree, I do believe in educating yourself in your field. So I have my licenses. I am educated as an artist. And I make as much as my friends who do have degrees.
Yeah.
As an esthetician, I make as much as a teacher.
I believe it for sure.
And I went to school for 8 months. So what's the incentive for teachers? I'm not saying that I should make less. I'm saying teachers should make more.
Agree.
I shouldn't go to school for 8 months and make just as much as somebody who spent 4 years and $200,000 on a degree.
Agree.
So companies, corporate, they need to stop lobbying, and that's the other thing. Corporations directly lobby against people. They lobby against us. They go to the government and say, hey, these people aren't spending money. They claim they're poor. How can we make these poor people spend money? Instead of asking how we can make these poor people not poor no more, so that they will spend money.
You know, that brings to mind a thought. I don't mean to cut you off. My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just talking.
But that brings to mind a thought with corporations lobbying. They don't want any regulations against them with the mind of the free market capitalism, but they are treating us like the communists and the socialists that they blame. And I'm like, y'all are speaking out the same side of the mouth. Y'all are exerting authority for your own common goods against the people.
Mm-hmm. Florida just put a law in place that allows that makes it so that companies don't have to allow for like shade and heat protection for outside workers.
What?
That's wild. But I'm with you with stuff like that. If our workers are dropping dead, having heat strokes, or all types of things that could lead to workers' comp issues, why not just split? Why not just shoot out the 20,000, however much for these little shades to protect them? Like our
Yeah.
interest is your interest.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so funny because they're so, they so mad about the immigrants and whatnot. So DeSantis, made more strict immigration laws. Okay, so when that happened, I think of, I want to say 75% of the outdoor workers left Florida last year, and it crippled a lot of the companies that like construction companies and produce country companies. So there was a company in Miami that had 100 employees. They were down to 5 in a week.
But we're making
Mm.
America great again, okay, people?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, old
We're
and
making
out of touch.
America. Yeah.
This is a
And then
man
on
who
top
was
of
born
it,
into money. So
it
yeah.
crippled the produce industry too, because there was nobody to pick the fruit, and it sounds like you're speaking on a stereotype, but it was a reality. My friend, he works for T-Mobile, and he said so many immigrants came in and canceled their plans, paid off their phone bills so that they can leave and not have any debt in the state.
Mm.
Yeah, he said people were just like paying off their phone bills left and right that first week that DeSantis had made that law.
Mm.
It was insane, and they don't realize that these quote unquote values that they have are they're literally out of touch. They're crippling us to the point where we can't do what you want us to do. You're
Yes.
trying to force us to do something that you made us incapable of doing. So, and then on top of that, because of COVID, people realize that they didn't have to work.
Mm.
So when COVID happened, you know how quickly this sounds like a conspiracy, but I 100% believe this. The abortion bans and a lot of these real estate laws that went in place really fast. Do you realize that? It was so fast, and there's a few reasons why that happened. All these like big corporations bought up these entire neighborhoods, built houses, and wanted to rent them out, right? We saw it happen. These random Stepford neighborhoods popping up everywhere where all the houses look alike, right? And they wanted to rent them out. Well, when COVID happened, people were financially crippled and they couldn't rent the houses. So let's say you, me, AJ, we all decide, okay, instead of renting 3 individual houses that we can't afford, hey, y'all want to just rent together? So instead of taking 3 houses out the market, we only took 1 house out the market. So companies were not seeing the return on their investment because more and more people were cohabitating that weren't nuclear families.
Mm.
So that crippled them. They're like, well, how do we fill these houses? So again, they lobbied against the people to change legislation to make it so that you cannot rent together in certain states. So that was number 1. Number 2, because of COVID, people realized that they didn't have to work. People who normally would do anything and everything to keep their job because they have families, right?
Yeah.
So a woman with 2 kids, no husband, would normally fight tooth and nail for her job, go above and beyond, make sure that she's not the one on the chopping block. Well, there's nothing you can do when COVID happened. Everybody lost their job. Hold on, sorry, my ear itch. So, but normally, people with kids, they would fight harder for it. But they started, doing TikTok shop and starting an Etsy shop and doing things like that. And then also the other thing is, back to the housing, if you are single with no children, you're more likely to cohabitate with other people than you are if you have children. So the woman with 2 kids is not going to cohabitate with 3 strangers because the safety for her children and also being self-conscious that her child will be a burden on them. So How do you get these 3 people to have children so that they buy separate homes? Get rid of abortion. Ban abortion. So you have an abortion ban. Then on top of that, during COVID, after COVID, you had the job exodus that happened because people realized that they didn't have to work a traditional 9 to 5 to survive because TikTok Shop and Etsy and, you know, going into business for themselves. There was a mass job exodus. People were like, you know what? People who would have normally held their tongue, they acted like AJ. They said, I'm not your nigger or nigga. And they left. So you have all these millennials that left because they're like, why bother? Again, if you don't have children, you are more likely to say, fuck this job. And so, again, how do you get these people who have no incentive to stay at this job Put them in an inconvenient situation where their backs are against the wall. Ban abortion. You are more likely to put up with crap. Women are very hard workers. Women with children are harder workers.
Amen.
At least on average. I know there's a few deadbeat mamas out there, but on average, women with children are much harder workers, and they're going to do what they have to do, and not everybody can have an Etsy shop. So, speed up this abortion thing. Change legislation that prevents people from renting.
That's depressing. I never really thought of it like that our own legislation would be working against us, while simultaneously thinking they're doing what's best for us.
Well, so this is what happens too. So you have a lot of people were mad at Obama for certain legislations that were put in place in his during his term, but a lot of it was him trying to appease the Republican Party by adding certain things in the bills to make them happy. So he said, if I put this in place for my liberal constituents, how do I get y'all to sign it? And they're like, well, you have to put this in here for our conservative constituents. So that's what a lot of these bills are. A lot of these bills are them saying that we need, if you do this, I'll do that. If you do this, I'll do that. So a lot of people get so upset because they feel like the Democratic Party shot them in the foot with certain things, but their hands were tied. Their hands were tied. And a lot of times Republicans will allow the country to fall into destitution before they allow a Democrat's name on something. And that's not to say that the Democrats are a perfect party. They're not. I consider myself voting in my favor, not necessarily a Democrat or a Republican. I vote in my favor. I think that's the most important thing you can do as a black person is just vote in your favor and don't pick a side necessarily. But looking at the Democrats' track record, their biggest issue is that they don't know how to speak to their people. And it messes things up when you look at these bills because you think that the Democrats put a law in place that they themselves didn't want to put there. They didn't want that. But they had to get the Republicans to sign it because sometimes the Republicans outnumber us. There are people that think that financially we are worse off under Biden than we were under Trump. But the thing is, you have to look at the trajectory. Things were crumbling while we were under Trump. So you didn't feel it while you were under Trump because it was still falling apart. Biden inherited it when it was at its plateau. So now we're like, okay, the economy sucks. So now Biden is trying to bring up the economy. And by the time, if Trump gets back into office, by the time he gets back into office, people are going to say, oh, Trump fixed everything.
That's how they
But he didn't. And the same thing happened to Obama. Obama inherited a crappy economy, and he made it better than it took until his second term to get it up to where it was. And then Trump came in and he's like, look at what I did. He killed him. You know, what he did was he killed 1 million people and destroyed a working economy because he was jealous that Obama's name was on so much shit.
Damn. But
That's a fact because like we look at it now. He's blaming Biden for the recession, like you're saying, but the economy was already down. We were in a pandemic. If we're printing more money, that means inflation.
Mm-hmm.
And we hyperinflated the US dollar. That's why BRICS is becoming so major now.
Yeah.
And Saudi Arabia just de-dollarized. And
Yeah.
it's bad if the oil
Yeah.
field de-dollarizes. So
Yeah.
we're SOL right now.
The only thing that they can do, to save our economy, and they will not do it, is literally pay people more.
then just do it.
If they actually pay people more, then the money will circulate.
Yes. And
in the economy.
Like the smartest choice. I don't understand.
They won't do it because it will come out of their pockets. In order to pay people more, the CEOs have to take a pay cut. And there are some who have done that. There are some CEOs, and there are some CEOs that refuse to cut the pay or fire employees because a company is failing. So there are some people that are altruistic enough to see that and do that. But at the same time, too much of our economy's money is held within the 1%.
Yeah.
If I pay tax dollars, I should not. Let's say a government worker should not lose money because the government can't make decisions. But that happens every year. Every time they hole up in January and they can't decide on what to do, so then the government shuts down. And when a government shutdown happens, the congressman still gets paid. The senator still gets paid. You know who doesn't get paid? The officer, the fireman, the EMT. Like, all of these government workers do not get paid when the government shuts down. But somehow, some way, the senator, the government, the DA, all of them are still getting paid. The attorney general, all of them still get paid. When a company loses money, all of the top execs, they still get their payout.
And the government bails them out too.
Oh, the insurance is crazy because we pay for insurance. Okay, we pay for insurance. 90% of most insurance companies' revenue comes from the government. We pay taxes. So we're paying for insurance twice.
Hello.
It comes out of our tax dollars and it comes out of our check.
But they get tax cuts.
Let me ask you guys this. For like the ones that are fresh out of high school, bright eyed, because like my son is 14, he'll be 15 soon. He really wants to get a job. So what would you guys recommend, or what tips would you give some of the younger people entering the workforce? What to look out for?
Dual enrollment. He needs to, either do dual enrollment with college or dual enrollment as in like while he's in high school learning a trade. If he has a trade, this is what messed me up. I begged my mom to let me get my esthetician's license while I was still in high school, but she was so focused on college, okay? But here's the thing. As a college student, when I was in college, I was working crazy hours to support myself and go to school working retail, okay? Had I had my esthetician's license, I could have been working 3 days a week, making as much as a kindergarten teacher while having work-life balance, going to school and having a life.
Yeah.
Having a trade will never go out of style. When COVID happened, people were going to people's houses and still getting their hair done. The beauty industry was booming because people were on Zoom. They wanted to still look good.
Yeah.
Summer happens every year, so people need their HVACs installed.
True.
People still had to drive their cars, so mechanics, they were still working.
Let me just chime in really quick on what she's saying. And I've actually said this on a podcast before. I tell this to my nephews and my sons and my niece too, but she's the youngest. If you want to get paid, I mean, if you want to remain paid, stay paid, be paid, get a skill. If you want to be educated, go to college. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, depending on what field you're in, you can make bank. You
And
know,
there you can do both. You can
you
do
can do
both.
both. You
And
can do both. And also, but if you want to be part of this 1%, or if you want to one day see riches, you got to solve a problem.
have a skill.
You got to solve a problem. Like Jeff Bezos, what did he give us? He gave us shit at our door within 2 to 3 days. Like he saw he
A
saw a
problem.
need and he filled it. So as much as college is a great experience, and I think every child that wants to have it should have it, don't push your children away from becoming a plumber. Like when we lived in Shreveport, the guy that owned the duplex we lived in was a plumber. Him and his father were plumbers. So there's nothing wrong with education. There, that is a great experience, but it also is a great bill. You know, you got to pay to go to school. Get a skill. Go ahead and take that 12 months and learn to cut hair, do hair, you know, what have you.
I had to take my headphones off because my iPad was dying, but I'll just mute it when I'm not talking.
Okay.
But yeah. So, and then the other thing is, if you say your son,
Yeah, he wants to work at like a Chick-fil-A. He's only gonna be 15, but
if he doesn't know what type of trade he wants to do, that's okay. I still recommend dual enrollment because you can graduate high school with an AA and then get your whatever certificate or trade you want to get, and then finish your bachelor's. Most trades take a year, so you could get your trade and then go back and finish your bachelor's in 2 more years. And sometimes by then you've figured out how to make your trade your degree and then work together. That could be its own thing too. So you never know. But I recommend either dual enrollment or getting a trade while, in most states, pay for the trade while you're still in high school. So and he'll feel like he's working. It's depending on what he picks, it's hands on. He could do graphic design. I think there's graphic design programs.
Yeah.
There's mechanic, HVAC. There's so many things that he can learn that if you keep up with your license, you can always fall back on that. When Sephora closed because of COVID, I was at least able to do my art and sell artwork during COVID.
Yeah.
I always have something to do because I have a skill. I have 2 skills. I have my license. I maintain my license in Florida and in Texas. And I can do art.
Yeah. And they can't, and a skill is something that cannot be taken away from you. Yes, AI is coming in and taking a lot of jobs. I know people are very afraid of that. But there are certain things, at least as of right now, that AI cannot do. A machine cannot come and fix your car. You know, you mentioned mechanics. As long as we have vehicles, we will need mechanics.
And there's legislation, more and more legislation out here that are trying to put guardrails. Because anytime a new technology is available, and AI isn't necessarily new, but it's booming right now. So anytime a new technology comes out, they have putting guardrails on it is always retroactive. So we saw this with the media industry where they had to put guardrails on that to prevent to ensure that actors and writers still get paid.
Yeah.
What's it called? Adobe is coming under fire because the commercial that they use to advertise their tool that's marketed toward artists used AI. So you want to encourage people to make hands-on crafts and artwork with AI? It's counterproductive. So there's a lot of artists that are banding together, especially artists that are part of unions and whatnot, that are working to get legislation out there too. And I think I walked into the Walmart over on Marsh by Lovefield, and they redid it, and I think they're redoing a lot of the different Walmarts. And when I walked in there, they actually had employees They made their self checkout smaller than it was, and they brought back lanes because, and people don't realize that's a form of AI.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, I
is.
never thought of it that
So
way. Yeah, it is.
it's a form of. It is still a form of AI, and it was taking away jobs. And I, on principle, do not use self checkout because one, I've been paid to be a cashier before. So where's my employee discount? Where's my 10 to 15% off for bagging my own shit? So I need a button that say EMP every time I use self checkout. But it takes away from people having jobs. It's great if you just have one thing you need to get out and go. Cool, it's convenient. But I should be able to go into a store and find an associate to help me. And Walmart was talking about how they were going to raise prices to mitigate the theft that was happening in their store because of self checkout.
Mm-hmm.
What you do is you hire employees, and
Yeah,
that
just
money,
get rid of self-checkout.
the money
Yeah.
that you were losing because people were stealing, you can reroute it to having real employees to prevent theft. That money will still needs to be spent, so you just spend it on people.
Yeah.
So these things are here and they're going to stay, but there is legislation, and companies are learning. Target and Walmart are competing again. It got to a point where our retailers weren't competing, and that competition helps us when they're competing. Target said that for the summer they're going to put a bunch of stuff on sale. It's going to be super cheap comparatively. And Walmart, and this was supposed to drive more traffic because they realized that people were buying less because they couldn't afford things. So they were just buying what they needed. They will make more money if things are cheaper and allow people to buy more.
Yes.
So they realized that. So they're piloting this during the summer. Walmart was like, whoa, so that means people gonna try and shop at Target now? Oh, hell no.
Okay, yeah, that.
So Walmart was like, okay, so we're gonna put some things on sale. So you'll see this summer that stuff is cheaper right now in the stores because they're competing again because they want our money. So when you asked if it was hopeless, it's not hopeless. There are smart companies out here. It's just going to take some time.
Yeah. Okay. And AJ, you're 25, so you're kind of not necessarily new to the workforce, but what would you recommend with the experience that you've had, maybe to some younger people under you who were looking to get, and which is okay. Before I go any further, let me just say this: I am not against young people wanting to work. We are from Shreveport, Louisiana, and I will tell you in a heartbeat, I would rather see a young man in a Kroger's apron than on the corner doing something he ain't got no business doing. So I'm not trying to discourage young people from getting jobs. I was that kid. I was 16, 17 when I got my first job. It's not what I'm saying. We're just trying to reach back and give advice that maybe we didn't receive or a little bit of wisdom that may help them navigate the workforce more easily. So let me just put that out there. Go ahead, AJ.
I would say on top of the skill set, because each of us has some type of gift that we can use in our life. We're all gifted individuals. I would say on top of that, there needs to be greater discernment amongst the younger people. Yes, the money may be good, but your job could be hell on earth. I've experienced that, as y'all heard with my Kroger experience, and because of that, I really don't want to manage a business again. Like I was like, if it's this hot up here, whew. So please do not run for the money just because the dollar is good. You go have to sacrifice something, peace of mind, a whole bunch of other stuff. So I would say be very, very discerning, especially because, like I said, even with my Lowe's experience, a manager tried to do something, and I ain't with that. So definitely discernment and have integrity with the gift that they're using with their skill set, because college isn't the only way. And
Agree.
a lot of the elder generations told us that just because they wanted to say, hey, my black baby or grandbaby got a degree, and that's fine. But we have gotten so far with degrees to where now a bachelor's degree is worthless. Most of us need master's degrees, and then my degree's on the line anyways if he does get an office, because the
Well,
Department of Education is going to be destroyed.
actually, they're taking away the degree requirements now for a lot of,
Really?
yeah.
I think they should.
Well, here no. So a lot of black people at first glance think that they should, but
Okay, okay, got
there's
you.
a
Keep
racist
going. Yeah.
reason why they're doing it. So back to what you said about how our grandparents wanted us to get degrees, our parents wanted us to get degrees. That was because what I said earlier, with them looking behind them and seeing things being worse, and then the degree was that symbol of I can do better. It's not necessarily that it looks good. We are a superficial group of people, and that's part of it, but it was mostly because that was the only way out of poverty for so long. So it's a little deeper than that. But as far as them getting rid of degree requirements, companies were getting hit left and right with lawsuits, discrimination lawsuits, because black people have become the most highly educated group of people in this country. Black people are more likely to go and get a master's degree than our white counterparts, which is crazy because there's so much more of them.
The irony.
You would think. But we're told as kids that in order to be seen as equal, we have to be better. So how do we get to be equal? Well, we have to go the extra mile. We have to get that master. We have to get that doctorate. And so when you're sitting in a room next to somebody who is not as decorated as you, but somehow, some way they get the job, you're going to ask questions. That's discrimination. Why are you discriminating against me? Well, the only thing I can see is my reflection. So in order to even the playing field, they're getting rid of the degree requirement so that they don't have to tell you an exact reason why they hired somebody. They can say, well, this person's personality seems to fit with our company's core values a little bit more. And I really think that they have something. And that something could be anything, and they don't have to say what that something is. You can have all the degrees in the world, but if you don't have that made up something that they have, you're SOL. So on the surface, getting rid of a degree requirement seems great, especially for me who doesn't have a degree. But when you dig a little bit deeper, when you know the statistics about how educated black people are versus our white counterparts, especially when you look at just ethnic people in general, when ethnic people seek higher education, we're more likely to complete it because of the shame that we feel. Our families are real good at making us feel guilty if we don't finish something. But I was born with 6 ounces of I don't give a fuck in my gallon of water, so my mom can try to make me feel guilty all she wanted.
Yeah. Shout out to my Dukes.
I love my mom, but she will use any excuse to say that's why you should have got a degree.
Well, let me see, because I'm a little bit older than both of y'all, and I know what we were kind of told going into the workforce is stay at a job. Like, if you try to go somewhere else, it doesn't look good to other employers if you have a bunch of jobs on there.
Yeah, my mom was always talking about that with resumes.
But I'm starting to find that a lot, mostly on TikTok. I am guilty of it. I love me some TikTok. I'm seeing a lot of the girlies say, "To hell with that," because you're probably going to get paid more if you leave this job and go to another one instead of stay here 5 or 6 years.
Yes, they're not wrong. They're not wrong. So for years, we were even when I took my computer class, the one thing they told us how to do is make a resume. So they always say keep your resume to 1 page. You don't want to have a bunch of stuff on there, and you want to stay at a job because it shows that you're resilient and that you really value the company and whatnot. But even my mom has learned in recent years that staying at a job that's not serving you is not necessarily a good thing, and the next opportunity is going to be better. My mom has made lateral moves that have resulted in an increase in pay. And that's the best thing you can do. Get paid more to do the same job speaks more volume to your ability in that job. You may not become the CFO, but in some places you can make as much as a CFO if your track record, because what you don't want to do is make a move that causes you to earn less.
Mm.
because it makes it harder for you to argue for your pay. But in that case, TikTok was right. It is very true.
Because I definitely was sent out into the working world believing that, like that Total Performance place, I was there 5 years, you know. But first of all, it was what was considered in Shreveport at the time a better paying job for non-degree people, even
Mm-hmm.
though they did stuff like take our lunch,
Yeah.
and we had bats and rats and fights. But
Do
but
bougie face.
right, so it was kind of odd hearing that, but on the other hand, it's worth a try. Like it's because I, other than Health Performance, another job I was at for 5 years was a call center, and I remember coming in. Me and some of the girlies came in when it was built because it was really just a warehouse that was remodeled. And then by year 3, people were coming in making just as much as another old school job hack was you don't talk about pay. You don't ask other people how much they're getting paid. And the TikTok girlies and the workforce fellas are saying that's horseshit as well. Ask people how much they're getting paid because we came to find that we had a whole year where we did not get a raise because the corporation was doing so bad and they had people coming in the door making $2 more than us. So had we not asked those questions, we would not have known. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, you're on mute.
That was yeah. My goddaughter was crying, but that was a myth spread to prevent people from finding out the pay discrepancies because just in general, whether you're a woman or if you're black, you find out that certain counterparts make more than you.
Mm.
So they say, don't ask, don't tell.
Okay. So to the young people coming in to the workforce, I would say ask the questions. I know you're excited to get work, and so you don't want to seem like a troublemaker or a fussy person. You're eager to get a job, but ask questions. My nephew had been working at Chick-fil-A for almost 2 years or however long, and I asked him about PTO. He didn't even know what it was. Like, I'm like, well, because I wanted him to go to something, and he had to work, and I was like, well, do you have PTO? He didn't even know what it was. So ask those questions. Do you all offer paid holidays? Do we get PTO?
We
And
had
don't be
the
scared to
manager
say that because you're
that
17.
was sleeping with people. She was hiding people's PTO.
Mm.
Ask questions.
Ask the questions. How much is starting pay on average? How often do we get raises? If I need to take off for a family emergency, what's the protocol? First, I think it would show that they're dealing with an intelligent person who not only is eager to work, but also you're not gonna play with me either. And that doesn't necessarily make them difficult or a hard, a less of a hard worker. I think it means they take their time and themselves seriously. That's how I would look at it if I were an interviewer. But there may be jobs that are like, sounds like somebody that's going to give me a hard time. I'll pass, and that's okay. That just wasn't for you. Someone else will see that and be like, they've got potential. They've got moxie. I think I could be wrong. I've never been a hiring manager or anything like that, but someone else might look at that and say they've got integrity. They've got smarts about them. They're not just here because people that are desperate don't necessarily make better employees. Does anyone else feel that way? Like,
I agree that desperation does not always equal equality or quality of work.
yeah, because just because you're eager to get money going doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be dependable, show up, or anything like that. So going into your interviews being afraid, because they're gonna say there is a part of the interview process where they say, "Do you have any questions for me?" Ask the questions then, because the next thing you know, you're gonna you're gonna be working from sun up to sundown for probably less pay, just happy to have a paycheck, and you don't want to start your work life off that way if you can avoid it, because it's hard to get out of something once you have started it. So that's my 2 cents to the young people out there. Like Chelsea said, it's not completely hopeless for us older folks either. I hope and pray that more good people get in positions of power. And when I say good people, I'm not. I don't mean like Batman and Robin Hood. I mean people that have the common folk. in their
No,
thoughts when they make
need a
decisions.
Batman. Don't we need Batman. We need Bruce. We need somebody who has the funds, who doesn't mind putting on their cape to help the small person. So essentially, yes,
Okay, so
Batman
we
was
do need Batman, but you know.
Batman was a martyr because he also played the bad guy so that Superman could be seen as a pillar of success. That's my nerdy moment. I'm a huge Batman fan, like really. If we were in my office, I'd show you my Batarang and my
Yeah.
collection of Batman pops. But
But I mean, like more.
yeah, we
I
need.
wouldn't have minded Trump if he had a heart for people. Actually, his privilege got him so far that it's like, where's the experience? And I think,
Here's the thing. Trump. You know the saying, a broken clock is right twice a day.
yeah.
Trump was not 100% wrong, but
Hmm.
he was 80% wrong. A good 80, and that's too much. So there's no I
80
would
too
have
much.
minded. I wouldn't have minded Trump, but you got 80%. Like no.
Well, I mean,
Excuse me,
okay, like
ma'am. You are
let
fake
me rephrase
educated.
that. As far as when I say Trump, my main, well, not even my main problem. The first thing I noticed with him before he started really talking too much was that he had no political experience, and it's
Yeah,
like that could have been overlooked if you came in with some "I really am here for the people" type shit. You know,
yeah,
not only do you have no experience,
no.
you're an a hole. You're a fascist. You're about the 1%. That is who you cater to. You're racist. Like, what are your good qualities,
Here's the
sir?
thing. Trump
He's a New
Trump don't even
Yorker.
Trump don't even care about the 1%. That's what people don't understand.
Mm,
Trump cares about him because if he cared about the 1%, he wouldn't be trying to have a dictatorship.
mm.
That part.
So there's a round table and he's sitting at the head of it.
Ah.
Let's understand that they're not sitting on equal ground. His podium sits higher than everybody else's in his camp.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it would behoove everybody in his camp to remember that. Trump things that Trump said that I agree with. He asked if we are being asked to send money and aid to other countries, what our debt look like. We
Mm-hmm.
owe money, so much money to so many other countries.
$30 trillion.
Yeah. So why is it y'all asking me for money when you know I ain't got no money? Why are y'all asking us to help Ukraine?
Ukraine don't even care. They even said whether they join NATO or not, they don't care. It's it's
Yeah.
a it's just a prideful thing, and we're
Yeah.
sending
So
the
I
money.
don't. Well, no, because Trump questioned our place in the UN
Mm.
because what happens with the UN is we are always strong armed and guilt tripped into positions to help other countries. Meanwhile, those same countries talk so much shit about the US.
Mm.
They always have something to say about the US and what we're doing over here that's not right, but y'all want our aid because of our size. It doesn't matter how big we are poor.
I
We are
think you know what? Now that you mentioned, I feel like the U.S. is the auntie that wears the old shabby fur coats. You know what I'm saying? The pearls that have the chip paint coming off. We still believe we are,
yeah.
but in hindsight, baby, we are in
We're
debt.
nouveau riche that lost their money quick.
Mm.
That's what it is. We are that great Gatsby new money that ran out of everything really really fast, and we don't want to tell people that, but the world knows. But they also know that we're stupid enough to fall into it. One
Mm.
thing we had right, we used to be isolationists. The first, I forget what it was called, but the first version of the UN, we helped set it up, but we didn't want to be a part of it.
Mm.
That was before World War II. Now we have to be a part of it because they didn't like the U.S.'s hands-off approach. But every time we got to send money somewhere, it's across the pond.
To
Mm.
countries that don't care about us.
Yeah, I'd rather send money to Mexico, get them up and running, so we can have better trade opportunities.
And
Agreed.
stop the border war.
Mexico is one of our biggest trade partners. When we don't send no money over there.
Yeah. We better ostracize them.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
But yeah, Trump does not support anybody that cannot benefit him directly. As soon as Trump does not have a use for you, then you're done. It doesn't matter if you're in the 1%. We saw that with Pence, his own VP.
dang.
We ain't seen him in 5 years.
So, what do you guys think a president a president could do to help the work economy?
I
Look,
think.
oh,
No, you go ahead, AJ.
I think they should look back to their days when they was working hourly, barely making anything off a minimum wage.
They
They
weren't,
need to look to that.
but they weren't. None of our
Trump
presidents
show wasn't.
were poor.
Oh, no, Trump was born with a
Well,
golden
I mean,
spoon.
Obama, I wouldn't say he was rich.
He wasn't rich,
He was
but
better off, but
he but they were definitely his wife. I think Michelle has a more down to earth backstory than.
Agree.
oh yeah,
But it still doesn't mean that she was working. If I recall from reading Becoming Michelle, I don't remember her mentioning any story where she was working in the supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it I don't know what scholarship she had to go to law school, but law school ain't cheap. Now,
especially these days.
right. So, what our presidents can do, and contrary to what a lot of black folk think, Biden has already done it. But he's done it a little bit. Providing financial relief in as much as they can. He's done.
Yeah.
I know people who have already received money or received relief from their student loans. My mom's student loan payments were like $300 a month. That's a car note. So
Yeah.
imagine somebody who pays $300 a month getting their student debt wiped out.
That would be a good place to start.
That's financial relief.
You know what? Now that you mention it, that actually could circle around and help with the home buying process as well.
Yes, it does. Then,
Man.
President Biden also made certain medicines that traditionally are most needed by African American. I hate that word. By Black communities, like insulin. Insulin is like $35 now, I think. That provides so much financial relief for people. I take a ton of medications, and I wouldn't give for one of mine to be on that list. Like, so
he's making. So you would say he's making strides.
He's given more money to HBCUs than any other president in history. But Democrats don't know how to talk about these things. They don't know how. When they talk about it, they say, we have provided X amount of financial relief to the municipal blah 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 words. Most Americans can't read past the 6th grade level, so stop talking like we can. I barely understand it, and I think I'm pretty literate. So if I'm having a hard time understanding what you're trying to tell me, majority of the American population does not know what the Democrats are saying half the time. But there's a lot of, if he's provided relief in several different areas that people, especially Black people, really struggle in. And I hate to say this, but when people go out to vote, a lot of people this year are going to vote because of what's happening in Israel. And it's unfortunate what's happening. It's beyond unfortunate what's happening in Israel. But we could be in a situation like Israel if we don't vote in our favor. Israel is one. I put up 2 fingers. Israel is one problem. One problem that we are facing right now. But there's so many other things that can affect us if we don't vote correctly. If we don't vote for Biden, Trump wants to indemnify the police. If Trump indemnifies the police, that means that if a police officer runs you over and buries your body in Mississippi unmarked grave, your family can't even sue. It makes it impossible for you to even try to get retribution, let alone actually get it.
Yeah.
If Trump becomes president, we're screwed. We are literally. He said he wants to be a dictator for a day, but no one ever was a dictator for a day.
He also said president for life too. Remember?
Yeah.
One of these days, America's gonna have a president for life. Wouldn't that be great? Grand.
You're too good at that. You're too good at that. You need to stop.
You actually do sound
No,
like him.
like that. Well, remember I used to do voice acting, but
Oh, okay.
I really wanted to
He
interject
moved
when
to
you said
Dallas.
that round table.
If
I was
you
gonna
move to
say
Dallas,
big
there's
and
a lot of voice
golden, just
acting.
like me.
There's a lot of voice acting opportunities here in Dallas.
Really?
Yeah, and Crunchyroll Studios is here too.
Oh, now that I did not know.
Yep,
Let me ask you guys something really quick because our time is running out a little bit. And I know we all are artists and creatives. As far as work goes, do you ever feel like it doesn't matter really what the job may be? You may never feel, I don't want to say fulfilled at it, but satisfied at it because technically you're not operating in your gift, if you will.
Um, could you repeat that one more time for me, please, Courtney?
Okay, so like I'm a writer.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like to a certain degree, no matter what the job is, if it's not me operating in what I love to do, I'm
Ah,
probably not ever gonna feel 100 at this job, no matter what it is, because it's not my. Some people say anointing, some people say gift, some people say skill. It's not the thing I love to do that makes me truly happy. And not saying that everyone has that. I notice a lot with artists. That's why I asked you guys because you both are artists in your own right. Do you feel like that is a problem that I say creatives may have? It's like no matter what position they get, even if the work culture is there more than others, because it's not fulfilling, it may never really suffice.
I'd say yeah. Um, because like our workmanship, like the things we all three do, is taken for granted. Like people, and we love what we do, and the jobs we have, it's a stepping stone. But some days I wonder, and I'm like, good Lord, when am I going to get out of this stepping stone? I want to do my stuff completely full time, but
Amen.
there's so much misappreciation and underappreciation for our creativity, and it hurts me because I have a friend in Brazil. His name is Kaique. He was featured with Google back then when they did those promos on people and stuff. He's on Google Brazil and all that stuff. And this guy, he's in Brazil, man. Like it's so rare for him to get money. The most he's ever make is like $100 US dollars, and I'm like,
Mm,
people don't appreciate you no matter what part of the world you're in.
mm.
They just want something cheap, or if you try to give them that, give them the mountain, they'll go for the pebble.
I feel you on that.
I have been fortunate enough. Like I said, I was born with 6 ounces of fuck it in my gallon of water. So once I graduated, I told my mom I wasn't what she wanted for me wasn't what I wanted for myself. Now,
Sure.
I've been drawing my whole life, okay?
Yeah.
I found a way to release a lot of my creative energy through makeup artistry. So I started out as a makeup artist at 16. Um, I was happy and I felt fulfilled in that for a time
Okay.
being because my passion is always it has always been drawing though, okay? But I was still creatively flowing and I still had some time to work on my art. There was a point though where I was like, after I had my liver transplant, I was like, life's too short. Life's too short. So as much as I hated my job at the waxing place, it had the best work-life balance.
Mm.
While I was recovering, that's when I started building my art studio in my in our spare room. And when I went back to work, I still had time to learn. I spent a year learning digital art. I hadn't been able to dabble in it. I started it back in 2013, but I didn't take it serious until after that. So for a year, I really was like just learning so much, and that was when I felt the most fulfilled. When I could see myself growing. That's when I felt truly fulfilled as an artist. I knew I was growing. I knew I was going somewhere with this, and I was like, I can't be stopped. I felt invincible at that time. But then even that wasn't enough at a certain point. So I was like, I gotta do more.
Yeah.
So even this last 6 months when I was forced out of my job, it was a blessing. I didn't cry. I didn't lose myself because I was like, I looked at my husband. I said, babe, can I just focus on my art for a while? And he said yes. And I've made quite a bit of money this last 6 months, working on my art. And at first it was just, small things here and there. Like really, really small things, like $10 for a sketch or a picture or something like that. But then, people started buying my posters, and then Courtney wanted my help. So she paid me more than 100. So, and I have things in the queue right now that I'm working on, and I had to shut down my what's it called, my commissions. I'm full right now. I have a full plate.
Okay.
I can't take any more commissions right now. Your project is a big part of that, just to let you know.
Well,
but no, I have a few commissions. So right now I do feel fulfilled. But I feel like part of why artists kind of lose that drive is because they're not growing.
okay.
So creatives, if you're constantly in a learning state for your craft, I think you'll feel that fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we lost AJ.
Yeah, which is fine. We actually are getting close to the 2 hour mark. I really enjoyed this conversation. He might jump back in. But well, if he doesn't, go ahead and just let the people know where they can find you and contact you.
Yeah, you can find me at CSI. So that's Siyoursenpai. That's on Instagram. That's also on YouTube. Yeah. And then I'm on Etsy also as Siyoursenpai. So yeah, I'll give you all my stuff.
Okay.
I am the stone that the builder refused. I am the visual, the inspiration that made ladies sing the blues. I'm the spark that makes your idea bright. The same spark that lights.
Yeah, so we've got Chelsea and AJ. Also, you both do graphic art, correct? Okay, so if you're looking for something, you want more of a, because Fiverr is nice, but it's really nice to have a person you can touch and talk to and reach out to. I like that experience a little bit better. So definitely reach out to either if you're looking for those services. Thank you for joining us today, and have a good night and a good week.
Thank you. Bye.